We eat every single day, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about the science that decides exactly how your food tastes, how it feels, and yeah, even how it sounds? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back the wrapper on that hidden world.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Why is one brand of chips just perfectly crispy and amazing, while another one is just kind of meh? Is that just random luck, or is there a hidden world of science meticulously designing every single bite you take? Well, let's just say it is definitely not random chance.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll tackle what I'm calling the billion-dollar taste question. Then, we'll get into the actual science of sensation. We'll deconstruct a single bite, look at the three main tests scientists use, and finally, see how all this lab science ends up right there on your plate.
So, to kick things off, we have to get one thing straight. A food can be the most nutritious, perfectly engineered product in the world, but if it doesn't appeal to our senses, you know what? It's going to fail. Success in the food industry is about so much more than just fuel for our bodies.
That's because food is pleasure. It's comfort. It's satisfaction. So for any food company, the ultimate goal is just getting you, the consumer, to accept it. They need you to like it. And figuring out how to make that happen isn't some kind of art form. It is a high-stakes science where one wrong move can literally cost millions.
So how do all these companies solve this massive billion-dollar question of taste? Well, they turn to a formal scientific discipline that's designed specifically to measure something that seems totally subjective, our own human perception of food.
And it's called sensory evaluation. The official definition is actually pretty revealing. It uses words like measure, analyze, and interpret. So right away, it's clear we're not just talking about opinions here. We're talking about collecting cold, hard data on what our senses are telling us.
Yeah, so you can forget any idea of a simple taste test like you do at home. This is a super rigorous, systematic process. We're talking about individual testing booths, specially controlled lighting and temperature, highly trained professional panelists, the whole shebang. And it all leads to some very serious statistical analysis.
So if they're measuring our reactions, what exactly are they measuring? Well, let's deconstruct a single bite and see how scientists break down the entire eating experience across all 5 of our senses.
It really all begins with sight. We absolutely eat with our eyes first. The color, the shape, even the shininess of a food creates this powerful expectation way before it ever gets to our mouths. A bright red strawberry just looks fresher and sweeter, right? Well, that's your brain making a sensory judgment based purely on vision. Next up is smell, which is basically the gateway to flavor. In fact, a huge chunk of what we call flavor is actually aroma that we detect way up in our nasal cavity. You know, the smell of freshly baked bread doesn't just make you hungry, it's actually a key part of that bread's flavor profile.
And then, of course, we get to what we usually think of as tastes, the stuff our taste buds pick up. Science recognizes these 5 basic building blocks: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and that savory flavor known as umami. Every food you eat is just a complex mix of these 5 signals.
But wait, there's more. We can't forget about touch, or what scientists often call mouthfeel, and this is so critical. Think about the creamy texture of a good ice cream, or the slight graininess of a pear, or that satisfying chewiness of a caramel. All those feelings in your mouth are a huge part of your enjoyment.
And finally, the sense that most of us totally forget about, hearing. Yeah, hearing. The sound that food makes gives us these powerful clues about its quality. That loud crunch from a potato chip or the fizz from a soda isn't just background noise. It's your brain getting data that signals freshness and quality.
Okay, so now we know what they measure, but how do they actually do it? Let's take a peek inside the Sensory Scientist Toolkit. Generally, their methods are broken down into 3 main categories of tests.
Sensory testing pretty much rests on these 3 pillars, and each one asks a totally different question. You've got discriminative tests asking, is it different? Descriptive tests asking, what is it like? And affective tests asking the most important question of all, do you like it? And notice how the type of person they use changes depending on the question they're asking. Let's start with those discriminative tests. The goal here is incredibly simple. Just imagine a company wants to switch to a cheaper type of sugar in the recipe. They have to know, can people even tell the difference? This test gives them a straight-up yes or no answer. A difference either exists or it doesn't. That's
A classic example of this is the triangle test. It's actually kind of like a little puzzle. You get 3 samples. 2 of them are exactly the same, and 1 is the odd one out.
Your only job is to figure out which one is different. It's a really powerful, simple way to see if a change is even noticeable. Okay, next up are the descriptive tests. Now, this is the real deep dive. For these, highly trained panelists don't just say if something is different, they quantify exactly how it's different. They basically create a complete sensory map, like a unique fingerprint for that food, rating the intensity of everything from its fruity aroma to its bitter aftertaste.
And finally, we get to the affective tests. This is where you, the consumer, get to be the star of the show. Forget all the scientific breakdown for a minute. These tests have one simple goal: to measure liking, preference, and ultimately whether you'd actually go out and buy the product.
And the most common tool they use for this is the 9-point hedonic scale. It sounds kind of fancy, but it's really just a simple but powerful way to turn a feeling, like liking something, into cold, hard data. They ask you to rate a product on this scale, from dislike extremely all the way to like extremely, and just like that, they can get a score and figure out which products are going to be a hit.
All right, so we've seen the 5 senses and the 3 types of tests. So now let's connect all this lab science back to the actual food that ends up on your plate and in your shopping cart, day in and day out.
Believe me, this science is constantly working behind the scenes. It's used for quality control, to make sure your favorite cereal tastes exactly the same from one box to the next. It's what drives new product development. It's used to test ingredient changes, and it even determines a product's shelf life, not just when it's unsafe, but when it just stops being enjoyable to eat.
And really, this gets to the heart of it all. That simple preference you have for a crispier chip or a creamier yogurt, it's not just some vague opinion you have. In the world of sensory science, it's a crucial data point. It's something that can be systematically measured, reproduced, and perfected in a lab. So, the next time you eat, just pause for a second. Now that you know about all the hidden science that went into creating it, which of your 5 senses are you going to pay a little more attention to?